All right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for those who have liked my videos and subscribed this far. This will be just the third video. We're going to finish up the link install from these Coda Racing little links. So they are the raised ones, and they've labeled all of theirs. The Injora ones are labeled as well, but so I kind of already got a little bit of a jump on it just to save some time. The only thing I did was I just took off the factory shocks, and you know, you don't really need a video for that. It's top bolt, bottom bolt. So I do have to remove these tires, the front ones, to get the bottom bolt there out, the little ball head bolt. But this right here for our skid plate / motor mount, tranny mount, this one is actually the brass. So what I'll do in the video is I will weigh the brass versus an aluminum one versus the stock plastic one, so you guys can get a real good idea on weight differences. And the other thing that I got today was some of these really cheap axles that are off of eBay. I found a guy on there that had really good reviews, and I contacted him ahead of time and I asked him if he could, you know, make sure that they worked before sending them out. The bags were unopened, so I don't think he did check, but his feedback was really high, so I thought, well, what the hell, I'll just go with it. But very heavy. I mean, you've got a metal diff cover, you've got your little metal knuckles already. It did come with steering linkage, pretty heavy duty. So it has a little brass nuts, and I did put an Allen wrench through there and give it some good turns just ahead of time just to see how they turn, and they seem like they're actually not half bad. We'll do a full review on these down the road and weigh them and let you know what those end up weighing. So all right, so I'm just going to, like in the rear here, I can go through my rim and get to that first little bolt here in this link. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm just going to take this guy out and make sure that the orientation is correct, because right here you'll see there is that little, and it's trying to focus on my finger, but you'll see that little hump there. And so that little hump, just make sure that you get the little hump facing the same way whenever you put your links in, because your front and rear links may not be the same on your build. I do know that the deadbolt front and rear are different, and the actually I think they all are. So anyway, just know that they're different, know which way you're facing, and we'll go from there. I'm just going to disassemble it so it looks like just these two on each side, on top and bottom, and then undo your motor and transmission mount right here. And then once you undo all these little links, it should just come out. And then so this is a 3-link, and I'm really glad that I'm going to go to the Coda Racing one for this, because it's going to go from a 3-link to a 4-link. And I've seen a lot of people say, you know, hey, how do you do that? Well, it's pretty simple, because then where it mounts up here on the 3-link on the inside, it gives you a spacer, and then you mount it on the outside, I believe. So we'll tackle that when we get to it. But with this, the way that the Bronco sits, it actually rubs. The drive shaft rubs on the little 3-link there, and so little wishbone-looking bugger there. So yeah, it'll be pretty nice to do a 4-link run on this one. Side to side, we can remove the rubbing part on there. So I'm going to go ahead and just undo like all the little bolts that connect my axle to it. And my drive line, it may just come out, which I'm pretty sure it will, because all my shocks are already off. So that's where we're at. So once I get to that point, I'll tune you back in and show you. Okay, so just another little thing. I don't know, this is just me, kind of my OCD, whatever, but there's times where I start taking stuff apart and I forget which way did that go, where did this go, was this on the top, was this on the bottom? So I usually just either take a photo, but where I'm recording with this, it's not really a convenience for me right now, but so I just kind of just do a little sketch. So like if you look here, I just kind of look at it from the bottom view of the car, and so there's a little hump in the plate, and then you got your little deals. This link that attaches to the plate is actually on the bottom of the axle, okay, and the other one as well. And then the ones that mount here on the side which is actually like on the the side ear of your little plate, those go to the top. So the rear 4 links go to the top. Rear 3 link, which will become a 4, will be off of the top as well. So anyway, that's just how I do it. They just label it front, rear. And then whenever I take out certain screws, like all these ones have been the same length, these 2 side mounts were longer. And so I just drew a little note, like screw coming out. Both of those were longer. These ones right here are actually the ones that came on our, they were the new updated stainless for the rock sliders. So, all right, just little tips and hints that I teach myself to keep myself on track. All right, so here we are. I just removed all the other little bolts, turned the car over on its side. Rear axle just comes off and sits there and chills. And the front one, I did not unplug the servo. I just left it in there and just gently turned it. So now these 2 screws that came out of the motor and the transmission plate, they are the smallest screws out of the whole build. So, and here's the thing. I'm gonna end up with like a lot of extra screws because this brass one, and the reason I'm using the brass on this guy, I considered using the aluminum, but the brass one is the heaviest, and this is the by far most top heavy one of them all. But yeah, just looking at the screws that I've pulled out, this gives you a replacement of every single one of them, and they look to be pretty nice stainless, head screws. But then also in the Coda Racing, they give you the same thing. So I don't know. We'll just see. Maybe we'll do the I don't know. Maybe we'll do the Injora ones just because they come with this guy, and I have noticed that some of the threads do not match, like on the knuckles. How trying to put the factory screws back into those just did not want to go, and I stopped myself before I snapped one off and had a problem. Put the factory ones in it, or not the factory, I'm sorry, the actual Coda Racing ones, and they went right in, didn't even fight one bit. So we'll try it. If it starts to fight me, we'll worry about that at that time. So now what I'm going to do is just gently, I know I'm doing this with one hand, but let's see, I'm going to just take this guy out. So now I'm going to just gently spread the frame and try to pop this guy out. I may need both hands for that. I do. So, but yeah, I did kind of just pull on the frame a little bit before I had all the screws out, and it looked like it would move pretty easy. You don't have to go a whole lot. If you look right here, you can see those 2 little nubs at the top there, and those actually will get you aligned. Those are kind of like little alignment dowels. So let me get to that point. All right. So one more screw, and I didn't know about this, but I just be gentle, don't yank, don't pull. But there's one more screw right there. So once you wiggle it out of the body, there's a tiny little screw right there. And so I'll disconnect that, and should have her free. All right, and we are free. And yeah, I didn't know if this transmission had the metal gears or the plastic gears, but plastic it is. I know that whenever I took these apart to put the diff covers on, that they were a metal worm gear and a brass, well, other worm gear. So, which is pretty common in worm gears. So even the bigger stuff that we do at my job are built like that. So yeah, so here we have, I just laid it out on my little diagram. That way we can measure up the parts as we go, because they will be the same length, even though they have the little bends in them. They will still be the same length from ear to ear. Oh, the other thing that I was going to mention is with these Coda Racing, really cool. See how all the little brass bushings, they have the rubber bands already installed on them? That's pretty cool. So, where's my Injora kit? Hang on, I'll show you. So with the Injora one that I'm going to have to do, they are all sitting there waiting for you. Every one of them. So anyway, that's going to be a timely thing. But so yeah, I'm going to definitely weigh the aluminum one that comes in that kit, the brass one, and the factory plastic one. As far as links, I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess we could weigh them. So far, what I've noticed, a lot of the plastic stuff, it's built pretty beefy and thick. and the aluminum is actually a little bit thinner. So it's almost sixes. I mean, you do have the little plastic bushings in your plastic setup and the brass in this. So, and plus a little bit heavier hardware. I bet you in all you probably gain 5 grams. That's just my guess. So, but I'm going to go ahead and start assembling the new setup, just mirroring the old, just lining everything up, and I will do a side-by-side weigh and comparison. Hold on. All right, so here we go. We'll start by weighing the factory plastic one. So 1.987, 7.5 grams. Okay, so fairly light. And then we'll go with the Injora aluminum one, and you are at 4.33. So wow, yeah, so more than double your weight from factory. And now let's go with this bad boy. And you are at a solid 14.66. That is pretty impressive. So, I mean, choice is yours. Depends on what you have. You know, and the money difference really wasn't a whole lot between the aluminum and the brass. So if you can, possibly pick up a kit of links that don't come with this one like I did, and then just purchase this one separately. Mixing and matching, you know, is, let's see, yeah, 4.34. So, I mean, that's a gigantic jump from the factory clear to the brass. I mean, you're like 15 times heavier almost. So that's pretty cool. That's really good to know. Yeah, the other thing that I was going to say, just kind of like doing a review on each item as I open them. All these little links, I mean, nobody gives you instructions. That's the real, like, crappy part about all this stuff is you get it and you're like, oh, sweet. I mean, that's how you get it. You know, you're like, oh, that sucks. And Injora's been pretty hit and miss. I mean, you know, you spend $5 on some stupid thing and you get stickers with it. You spend $35 on a little kit and you get no stickers. So, you know, Coda Racing, no stickers. That would have been cool. You know, just stickers just to, you know, trash up your windows, whatever. Put them on your stuff. Make a little sign for your course. Who knows, whatever. But, yeah, so anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start assembling this guy on this guy. Catch you in a minute. All right, so one thing that I did notice is, I mean, they did put lengths. They did kind of do a little laser thing on one side. One side's good, but yeah, so right there, it is your Y-link. And so, yeah, so some of them are labeled a little bit. I mean, they give you like the length. So they were pretty easy to match up. And, you know, you could just look at that, you know, from hole to hole. And there was a really cool video I seen where a guy took his stock ones and he put them in a little block of wood and he marked the holes, pounded some nails. He did the math to properly measure for them, you know, center of your axle, pretty much from center of your rim to the outer of your tread. And then, you know, he did his little formula. You'll have to watch his video. It's really cool. And then he uses a heat gun. And so he takes his factory ones and actually stretches them. Because normally if you would bend them, you would lose length. So you'd actually shorten them up. But because he was heating it and stretching it while he bent it, they actually didn't lose any length at all. And because he did it, you know, with a heat gun, or I think he uses a blow dryer even, but I mean, that's a pretty tough blow dryer. But, you know, if you used a heat gun, you could get the results pretty quick. And then, you know, he kind of pushes on them and stuff while they're soft and make sure that they're not bent or crooked or warped. And he gets them pretty much aligned. And, I mean, it worked just as good as, you know, as this. But you know what? Since I have them all here, I think I will weigh all the plastic links. And because they all have their factory bushings in them. None of them, I won't put any screws in. So we won't let screws factor, even though it usually is like a 3 to 4 gram increase with the stainless, which is what I'm going to go with. But so we'll just go ahead and measure all the links, and then I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so we'll go ahead and, whoops, put those on there. Last one. All right, so all of our links together, wow, a whopping 5.61 grams. That is pretty insane. So we'll go ahead and wipe those out, and we will put the aluminum / brass ones on there. This guy's hanging off. All right, so yeah, I mean, you got 12.4, so I mean, you've more than doubled your weight as far as on that. And you know, like my buddy John always says, the more weight you can have underneath, you know, your frame, the better, because then that's your lower center of gravity. It helps everything with your top heaviness. I mean, if you start putting, you know, like the aluminum battery mount, and it's heavier than the plastic mount, well, you're just adding weight above, you know, the bottom half. So, you know, think about things like that maybe before you, you know, invest in some stuff if you're dealing with top or bottom heavy issues, you know. So, all right, well, now I will assemble these and I will get back to you. All right, so there are actually 2 sets of links that you can get. There are just pretty much upgrade aluminum ones. I forgot to mention this. I didn't know which set you may be purchasing to do, but there's some that are the stock lengths and the stock everything, but the only thing is that they are straight. These ones are the high-rise ones, and so see how they have the bends? So whenever you have the bended ones, make sure that facing the bottom, your bend curves downward, because then that'll actually give you more clearance between your axle and your shafts, or your links, my bad, sorry, your links. And so, you know, these, your 4-link, 2 of the 4 is now straight still, and these other 2, they are also going to be straight to the 51 mils. So, yeah, just your middle 2 will have that, because these ones are actually going to be up and behind it. So you'll have to install these ones as you go. And I don't mean to be beating a dead horse in every single video, but cannot reiterate how important it is that whenever you tighten up a screw, you are tightening up little sunglasses grade screws. I mean, the stainless are a little bit stronger, but you're going into soft brass, you're going to soft plastic and soft aluminum. And, you know, depending on what tool you have, you may have a lot of torque behind it. So just take your time, and then you're not going to be trying to dig out a broken screw, possibly having to buy a new plate just because there's a broken screw in it. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to mount the motor and tranny back onto it and then set it up into place. That's the next step. And then we'll be able to set these because you won't be able to run this screw through here until you get it set in place. Because if you try to mount this now, then that screw, it goes into the frame. So it's like a mounting / retaining screw. All right. So I put this guy in, did the 2 little bolts and then the one on the top, which, hey, the screw head actually stripped out right at the very end. So that's a problem I'm going to have to run into one day when the motor or transmission gives me a problem. I'm going to have to, I didn't break the head off or anything, but it, as soon as I felt it kind of spin, then that was it. I stopped. So, yeah, anyway, maybe I will stick to the factory screws. I don't know. They seem like they're actually built a little bit better, some of them. The stainless, I don't know, they do feel like a little bit softer stainless, but whatever. We'll deal with that whenever that road comes. So then this is the replacement Y-link. And so you want to install that one first and get your drive shaft line back up. And then same with the rear here. Took my one there and got it up. So now I'm going to be able to flip the car over very carefully and then do the other side. And with these ones, I ended up using the factory middle length screws. So you have like your longer ones that were the outer, and then you have these mid lengths, and then it came with the short ones. Some reason it didn't come with the mid length ones, but the factory ones did, and so I'm just going to use those in those. So because if you use a short one, it's not long enough, you won't get any bite. If you use a long one on this the Y, it's going to go all the way to the other hole, which won't give you any room for the bottom one. So Save and use your middle length ones. They're perfect. So, all right, I'm going to flip it over. And, oh yeah, and at this point, make sure that you get your drive shafts installed, because if you don't, then you're going to be undoing some linkage just to get it back in. So, all right, I know it looks like a little spidery mess, but so I just pretty much just moved these ones to the center. The ones that I'm not going to be dealing with, just kind of move them out of the way. And then, but yeah, so the other thing that I've noticed, a lot of people, they say, oh, I don't get very much flex. I'm getting a ton of flex out of these. And, you know, they're saying, oh, I'm taking off these O-rings and this and that. But you know what? I think it's going to be fine. I mean, if it limits you a degree or two, I mean, whatever. It's just for fun, right, guys? So, yeah. Let me flip it over and get to the other side, and then we will show you some more. All right. So there we have it. They are all hooked up, and I think plenty of flex. I mean, you know, you can feel the little rubber bushings. You know, you can definitely feel them, but, you know, I mean, if they are, you know, holding you back, then, you know, the easiest solution would just be reach in there with some little tweezers and pinch them till they break, pull them out, and problem solved. But, you know, eventually over time, they're going to loosen up, they're going to wear out, they're probably going to rot and fall off, and then you'll be, you know, without them. So I don't know. I mean, they make the install a lot easier having them pre-installed and set up, but, you know, for the most part, I don't feel like they're going to really, you know, bother you too much. You know, driveline, we're staying with stock. I'm not doing the upgraded steel one. Not now. Who knows? Maybe down the road. But it would be a pretty easy one to do. Pretty much you just have to undo these two links, and you'd be able to get enough flex to change it out. But yeah, so from this part right here, I'm going to reinstall the little nuts, and we'll set my tires back on. So, and then we should be done. So, all right, catch you in a minute. All right, so with everything wrapped up, we've got all of our bolts back in. Seems to flex pretty nice. And then we remounted our shocks. And I don't know if you guys have messed around with changing positions of shocks. But whenever I change the tire size, you know, I move the shock to the frame in the rear, forward facing. And on this one, mounted it down on the bottom part. So, I mean, just play around with it, see where it kind of sits level. We've got some custom shocks on the way. Yeah, so, yeah, and then whenever I did it, I also inverted them. And when you invert them, make sure that you put your cylinders facing forward and in the rear facing rearward, because then that will give you the clearance. Whenever you steer, you're not going to hit into them. If they are rear facing on the bottom, then whenever your tire turns all the way left or right, you will rub on this little fake barrel. So yeah, anyway, yeah, I kept having interruptions and different things go on throughout this night, so I had to break the video into 3 parts. So you know, right there I put the tire back on. That's the only one I've got on there yet, but it's pretty much wrapped up. We just have to end up doing the tires. So yeah, we'll see how she crawls and make adjustments as we go. So thanks a lot for watching. Hopefully that helped you guys. Any advice, any stuff, like I said, these guys definitely don't send you any directions, but you can see right there in the front, I am completely not touching my drive shaft anymore with that updated 4-link front end. That's awesome, because it was rubbing on it. I mean, you can see right there, you know, there's kind of a little wear thing starting to go on there. So that thing's been rubbing stock, came rubbing. So maybe a design flaw, maybe they needed to do some kind of a bent little wishbone deal there, but problem solved. Problem staying solved, I guess. So, all right, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Cold Crawler's out.